Hi viewers, good morning everyone. Myself Redwar Venugopal, Assistant Professor of Physics, and I am working at Government Degree College, Mahbubabad. Today we are going to discuss about different atomic models. That is the syllabus in atomic spectra for BSc Physics third year students of semester 6. This is the topic which is there in modern physics syllabus. So we know that materials can be classified into liquids, gases, and solids. Whatever material it is there, that either can be liquid or solid or gas. The common constituents of that materials are either atoms or molecules, either it can be. So molecules are the composition of atoms. Suppose if we take CO2 molecule, that is carbon dioxide molecule, it consists of three molecules, one carbon molecule and two oxygen molecules. Two oxygen atoms. Like that, atoms are the basic constituents of matter, and atoms again consists of electrons, protons, neutrons, and so on. But today we are not going to discuss about electrons, protons, and neutrons, that kind of constituents of the atom. But today we are going to discuss about atom, how atom is made up of, and what are the different atomic models. Try to explain about the atomic models and so on. The first and basic atomic model is that Rutherford atomic model. Rutherford atomic model explains that the atom is like a plum pudding model. That is, the atom is consisting of protons and neutrons, in which the nucleons or the atomic constituents, electrons and protons, are like seeds in the plum. Like that, he will explain that Rutherford. That is called Rutherford atomic model. That is called Rutherford atomic model. This is the very basic model of atom, but it has so many limitations because it has so many failures. So next atomic model is Bohr's atomic model, but we will go one by one. So today contents are Thomson atomic model, that is Rutherford Thomson atomic model, and drawbacks of Thomson atomic model, Bohr atomic model, drawbacks of Bohr atomic model, and these drawbacks are taken care of by Sommerfeld's atomic model. So Sommerfeld's relativistic atomic model is there. That means in atom the electrons are moving almost moving with velocity that are almost equivalent to our light velocity. That's why relativity comes into picture there. By taking care of that velocity of electron, Sommerfeld derived a model that is called as Sommerfeld relativistic atomic model, and then we discuss about drawbacks of Sommerfeld's atomic model, and finally we will discuss about the vector atom model. This is the universal model which tells that electron is spinning around itself, that is spinning of electron under spatial quantization. That means electrons revolving around the orbits, but that orbit orientation it takes care of. The orbit also, it cannot orient in all possible directions, but there are some predefined directions. In that directions only the orbital can orient. That is called as spatial quantization. So these are the topics that we are going to discuss today. So Thomson atomic model, J.J. Thomson atomic model, it explains that electron enter into the constitution of all atoms. Since the atom as a whole is electrically neutral, the quantity of positive and negative charge in it must be same. That means, suppose let us say this is the atom. He says that electron and protons are equally distributed within the atom. That means they distribute like this. But the thing it tells that this atom is electrically neutral. That means the positive charge and negative charge. That means electrons having a negative charge, whereas protons is having a positive charge. It tells that electron and protons in an atom are equal. That means it is the atom as a whole. The atom as a whole is neutral. Yeah, this is the model. Just observe here. Here positive parting, that is electrons are here. Electrons, the negative charged particle, and these are the protons. These are the electrons. Just observe, electrons and protons are distributed throughout the atom, but this is not the case. Electrons enter into the constituents of all atoms, but this is not the case. This has so many drawbacks. We will discuss. He explained that hydrogen can give rise to only to a single spectral lines. He could not explain the fine spectra of this hydrogen atomic model. Then Niels Bohr came into picture. He is a scientist who got Nobel Prize this atomic model also. This atomic model of hydrogen is called as Bohr atomic model. He proposed the following postulates, because when he put forward this hydrogen atomic model, he proposed some postulates also. The first postulate is an electron cannot revolve around the nucleus in all possible orbits. It can revolve around the nucleus in those allowed orbits for which the angular momentum of the electron is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. So here, just observe here, this is our nucleus. This is our nucleus. This is our nucleus. Let us say it is having some number of protons, some number of neutrons. These are the electron orbits. These are the electron orbits. Electrons are revolving around the nucleus in these orbits, circular orbits. According to de Broglie, these are the circular orbits. This the angular momentum. Let us say this is the nucleus. This is the nucleus. One electron. Let us say one electron is revolving around the nucleus with velocity. Let us say v. And the radius of this particular orbit from nucleus is, let us say, r. The mass of this electron, let us say, m. Then the angular momentum. Then the angular momentum. L is equal to, that is equal to mvr, that is equal to h by 2 pi. This principle is called as quantization of angular momentum. This is the first postulate. Next, coming to second one, an atom radiates energy only when electron jumps from a stationary orbit of higher energy to one of lower energy. If electron jumps from an initial orbit of energy Ei to the final orbit of EF, energy EF, a photon of frequency gamma, that is equal to E by Ei minus, that is equal to Ei minus EF divided by H is emitted. So let us say in general this is one energy level. Let us say we can represent energy level like this also. Let us say this is energy level E1, this is energy level E2. Electron, what is happening when atom excited? It goes to higher energy state. Electron in the atom, when atom excites, the electrons in the atom goes to excited state from E1 to E2, but it cannot stay there for longer time. What happens? It comes to the ground state by emitting a photon. It comes to a ground state by emitting a photon of frequency nu is equal to nu or f gamma, whatever we can take. that is equal to E2 minus E1, that is energy difference between those two energy levels. By calling it, we are taking it as delta E divided by H. So this is the frequency of the photon. This is the frequency of the photon that is emitted during this transaction from higher energy level to lower energy level. This is the second postulate. So by using these postulates, Bohr calculated the radius of the nth permissible orbit for the hydrogen atom. He arrived at Rn is equal to this formula. He arrived at this one. Here what we have to use is we have to use the velocity equation and radius of the orbit equation. Rn, we can derive this one. It will come like this. So if you observe, all are constants except one term. That is, just to explain, this is n square. This is n square is the number of orbit. N square is the number of orbit. That means in which orbit the electron is revolving. And h square is the Planck's constant. And epsilon naught is the permittivity of free space. And pi is a constant which value is 3.14. And electron charge, this electron charge is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs. It's also a constant. And mass of the electron is also constant. Mass of electron is also constant. So what is the only variable that is this one, that is our n. That means the radius of the orbits only depends on the number of the orbit. Suppose for first orbit R1 is equal to what happens, h square divided by h square epsilon naught divided by pi e square, and it becomes, that means this is the least radius orbit. Its value comes around 0.529 angstroms. So this is the least orbit which is having the less radius. That means if you take a hydrogen atom, its nucleus will be there. This is the first orbit. In the first orbit only one electron will be there. This is the nucleus. In nucleus only one proton will be there, and this one electron will be revolving around the sun, around the nucleus. This radius value is 0.529 angstroms. Suppose if we take some other atoms, let us take carbon atom. Carbon atom is having carbon atom atomic number is 6. So 6 electrons will be revolving around the nucleus. In first orbit only 2 electrons will be there. In the second orbit 4 electrons will be there. So like this, for second orbit and third orbit so on, the radius of the orbit depends on only n, that is n square. That means radius of the orbit is proportional to n square, where we call this n as principal quantum number. We will discuss it later. It comes in the vector order model, principal quantum number. So this is the energy level diagram of hydrogen. So here, according to Niels Bohr, different energy levels will be there, and he found out different spectral lines also. Here, different spectral lines are there. The first spectral line series is Lyman series. Lyman series. Next spectral line series is Balmer series. Next spectral line series is Paschen series, and the last next one is Pund series. And the last one is bracket series. So here just observe, here this is the first orbit. When an electron jumps from any higher order orbits to first orbit, then the spectral lines comes, that spectral line series is called as Lyman series. So for I will write like this here. So for Lyman series, what happens? For Lyman series, n1 is equal to 1 and n2 is equal to 2, 3, so on. It will be like it will be there. So the energy or radius of the orbit we already know, that is energy will be something proportional to m square e to the power of 4 divided by something will come like this. There we have to take care of n1 and n2. When an electron transits from higher energy levels to the first orbit, then Lyman series will be spectral lines of Lyman series will be formed. When an electron jumps from higher energy levels, that is n is equal to 3, 4, 5, so on, then electron jumps from this particular orbitals to n is equal to 1 energy level, then Balmer series will be formed. Suppose if an electron jumps from higher energy levels such as n2 is equal to 4, 5, 6 and so on to an orbit which is having n is equal to 3 value, then Paschen series will be formed. Like this, for bracket series, for Fund series n is equal to 4, and for bracket series on Fund series n is equal to 5 and bracket series n is equal to 4. Like this, we can get different spectral lines. So if you plot a spectral lines, this one, it will comes like this. So this is the energy level diagram. This is the energy level diagram. The equation En is equal to the equation here. The equation En is equal to minus m e to the power of 4 z square divided by 8 epsilon naught square n square h square is there. So just remember here one thing, that is m is the mass of the electron, that is constant. Its charge of the electron is constant. 8 is constant. Epsilon naught square is constant. H is also constant. It is Planck's constant. So the energy of a particular level of a particular atom depends on only two things, that is Z, that is the atomic number of that particular atom, and n is the principal quantum number of that particular energy level, that particular energy state. So the equation En is equal to minus m e square z square divided by 8 epsilon naught square n square h square can be diagrammatically represented as follows. In this diagram it is there. Just observe, as I have explained here Lyman series. Just observe this one. This is called Lyman series. For Lyman series, n should be equal to n1. n1 is equal to, here just let me write. If you plot the transitioner, for transitions, we write energy emitted for a particular transition, that is from n1 state to n1 orbit to n2 orbit. En1, n2, we write like this. This one will be equal to R into, that is called Rydberg constant, into 1 by n2 square minus 1 by n1 square. Like this we write. This is called Rydberg constant. This one is called a Rydberg constant. So when an electron jumps from or take transition from n2 orbital, that means from orbital which is having n2 principal quantum number 2, an orbital or an energy state of n1 principal quantum number, the energy emitted is taken care of by En1 n2, where n1 is the lower energy state, and n2 is the higher energy state. Here R is a Rydberg constant. So per Lyman series, what happens? Per Lyman series, let me explain here. Per Lyman series, N1 is equal to 1 and N2 is equal to 2, 3, 4, so on, like that. Per Balmer series, N1 is equal to 2 and N2 will be 3, 4, so on. Next, for Paschen series, N1 is equal to 3 and N2 is equal to 4, 5, like this we can take. And for bracket series, N1 is equal to 4 and N2 can take values 5, 6, 7, like that, so on. Next, for fund series, N1 is equal to 5 and N2 can take values 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like it can take integer values only. That means N1 and N2 can take only integer values, not fractional values. So just observe this diagram. In Lyman series, this is the Lyman series. In Lyman series, the transition should happen from any higher energy levels. The transition should happen from any higher energy level to n is equal to 1 orbit. Then this particular transition series is called as Lyman series. When electron jumps from higher order energy level or higher order orbits to n is equal to 2 states, n is equal to 2 orbit, then that particular transition series is called as Balmer series. Like this we can explain Paschen series, bracket series and Punnett series also. So the drawbacks, coming to the drawbacks of Bohr's atomic model, spectrograph of high resolution. So spectrograph means it's a diagram. Spectrograph is a diagram. Spectrograph is a diagram which shows different atomic transitions with energy. So the spectrograph of high resolution showed that lines are not single. That means these transition lines are not single. They are each spectral line is actually consisted of several very close lines together. So this is called Pine structure of spectral lines. But our Bohr's atomic model cannot explain this Pine structure of atoms. So next Sommerfeld come to explain these drawbacks and drawbacks of Bohr's atomic model. So Sommerfeld atomic model will discuss. Sommerfeld atomic model introduced the two main modifications to the Bohr atomic model. The first one is the path of an electron around the nucleus in general is an ellipse with the nucleus at one of the foci. Just remember one thing, in Bohr atomic model we assumed that the orbit shape is like a circle. In 3 dimensions it is a kind of spherical shell. But first modification that our Sommerfeld made to this Bohr atomic model is the atom the orbit shape is not circle, it's an ellipse. So this is the first modification, and the second one is first modification, that is one thing, but here we have to mention where the electron is in that particular atom, where the electron is there, where the nucleus is there. So if we take one orbit, in that particular orbit the nucleus will be at one of the foci, at one of the focal point. Okay, the velocity of an electron moving in an elliptical orbit varies considerably at the different parts of the orbit. Just observe in this diagram. Here, just observe. Here, our nucleus is there. So at this, if we take randomly some 3-4 points on this in this orbit, some let us take 5 positions in this particular orbit, electron positions. If we take this at this particular position, the electron velocity is something, let us say v1. In this position the electron velocity is v2. In this position the electron velocity is v3. In this position, electron velocity is v4. In this position, let us say v5. Sommerfeld explains that at different positions in the orbit, the electron velocity varies considerably. So the variation from v1 to variation is not negligible. There is a considerable amount of difference is there. That is the second one. So elliptical orbit for hydrogen atoms is explained like this. Here, to explain the position of our electron, we have to consider two coordinates. One is r and the other one is phi. So these are called as spherical polar coordinates. Spherical polar coordinates for two dimensions. So the condition that determines the allowed orbits is b by a is equal to n phi by n. Here we know n value, that is a principal quantum number. In Sommerfeld atomic model, he introduced one more quantum number, that is called n phi. In general, in vector atom model, we represent this one with L. So suppose, what are the values that n pi can take are n pi can take values from including 0, 1, 2, so on up to n minus 1 it can take. So for example, let us take one atom. This is the nucleus. Let us say this is the first orbit. This is nucleus. This is the first orbit. Let us say this is the second orbit. So in first orbit, for first orbit, n is equal to 1. That's why n pi will also be 1. That means here n is equal to n pi. That means if n is equal to n pi, phi, the orbital shape is spherical or circular shape. Okay. If n pi is not equal to n, if n pi is not equal to n, then only the orbit shape will be elliptical orbit. The eccentricity varies from different values of n phi. So if n phi is equal to n, then the orbit shape is spherical. If n pi is not equal to n, then the orbit shape is elliptical. So if we consider this one, n is equal to 2 orbital, n is equal to 2 orbit. In this one, 2 orbits will be there. We call them as suborbitals. So one is for n is equal to 2 and n is equal to n pi is equal to 2. It's a circular orbit. But for n pi for n is equal to 2 and n pi is equal to 1, its shape will be like a elliptical orbital, like this. It's for this particular elliptical orbital also n is equal to 2, but n pi is equal to 1. So just observe here, n is equal to not is equal to n pi. That's why its shape is elliptical. Like this, he has given he has derived a equation which tells that the condition that determines the allowed elliptical orbitals are given by b by a is equal to n pi by n, where b is the if you take a ellipse in general in mathematics, if you take an ellipse, this is we take two axes. This is called as semi-major axis, and this is called as semi-minor axis. So this mass, we represent this length as, that means the length of the semi-major axis is a, and the length of the semi-minor axis is b. So like this, for each and every allowed orbitals, it should follow this relation. That means b by a is equal to n pi by n. When n pi is equal to n and b is equal to a, eccentricity is equal to 0 and the orbital becomes circular. But when n pi is equal to not equal to 0, n pi is equal to less than n, n pi has different values, depending on the different values, the orbit shape will be modified like this. Just observe this orbital, this one. For this one, n is equal to 1 and n pi is equal to 1. This is the circular orbital. And for this one, just observe, for n is equal to 2, and n pi is equal to 2, both are same. That's why this orbital shape is circular. But for this particular orbital, n is equal to 2 and n pi is equal to 1, right? That's why its orbital shape is ellipse, but the eccentricity is little bit less. But just consider this one. This is another example. Here n is equal to 3. That's why n pi can take values 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3 it can take. Okay, so just neglect this one. 0, 1. It can take n values, n pi values 1, 2, 3. If n is equal to 3 and n pi is equal to 3, then the orbital shape is circular. If n is equal to 3 and n pi is equal to 2, the orbital shape is elliptical, but the eccentricity is less. But when n is equal to 3 and n pi is equal to 1, the orbital shape again is a ellipse, but the thing is that the eccentricity is a little bit more. So like this, the orbital shape is not a circular orbital in as in Bohr atomic model. It's a elliptical orbital in general. So the total energy calculated, for total energy he arrived at this equation, that is equal to minus me to the power 4 z square divided by 8 epsilon naught square n square h square. Next one, Sommerfeld, as we discussed in the contents part, Sommerfeld considered the electron velocity is almost equal to the light velocity, that is 3 into 10 to the power of 8 meter per second. Actually, the velocity of electron in elliptical orbit is around 1 by 137 times the velocity of light, that is c. So Sommerfeld, considering the variation of mass with velocity, he showed that the relativistic equation describing the path of the electron is 1 by r. This equation 1 by r is equal to 1 plus epsilon cos psi pi divided by a into 1 minus e square, where this one is taking care of eccentricity. Here psi square is equal to 1 minus z square e to the power of 4 divided by 16 pi square epsilon naught square p square c square. So in for deriving this particular equation, he is taken care of this relativistic correction. So the path of an electron given by equation 1 is equation 1, this one, equation 1. Just observe this one, this one. So the path of electron given by equation 1 is an ellipse whose major axis precesses slowly in the plane of the ellipse about an axis through the nucleus. So the total energy in relativistic theory by this one, that by considering the relativistic part, Sommerfeld arrived at this equation, that is En is equal to me to the power of 4 z square divided by 8 epsilon naught square n square h square minus me to the power of 4 z to the power of 4 alpha square divided by 8 epsilon naught square h square into n by n5 minus 3 by 4 into 1 divided by n to the power of 4. Here alpha is called as Pine structure constant, because as we have discussed in the drawbacks of Bohr atomic model, the transition, when a transition happens from higher energy state to lower energy state, in Bohr atomic model only one spectral line is there. But that is not the case. When you perform an experiment, each line consists of multiple number of lines. That thing is called as Pine structure of the spectrograph. So here in Sommerfeld atomic model, the alpha is called Pine structure constant. So just observe here. This is the point structure. This is spectrum of point structure of H alpha line. H alpha line here. Here H alpha line. So H alpha line is due to the transition from n is equal to 3 to n is equal to 2 state of hydrogen atom. So that's why we are just taking only two orbitals. That is n is equal to 3 and n is equal to 2. As we have mentioned, for n is equal to 3 and n5 value can be 1, 2, 3. For n is equal to 2, n5 value can be either 1 or 2. So in this case, two suborbitals are there. In this case also three suborbitals are there. Here 6 types of transitions are possible. Here 6 types of 6, because 3 into 2, that is 6 transitions are possible, but some transitions are forbidden, because some transitions are forbidden. Here one rule is there, that is called as selection rule. That selection rule is delta L is equal to delta L, we are calling it as N5. Delta L should not be greater than plus or minus 1. So if you take this one, for that is equal to this one 3 and this is 2. That means delta N5 or delta L is equal to 1. If you take this transition, here also, just observe here, this one, for this one is 3, but for this one is n is equal to 1. That means delta N5 is equal to 2. But this transition is forbidden according to our selection rule. So like that, these three transitions are forbidden according to selection rule. So in hydrogen point structure of hydrogen spectral lines, we will get only 3 lines. This is called as point structure of H alpha line, because H alpha means transition of an electron from third energy state to third energy state to second energy state. This is called H alpha line. So coming to the drawbacks of Sommerfeld theory, Sommerfeld theory was able to explain the point structure of the spectral line in hydrogen atom, but it could not predict the correctness of spectral lines. It has predicted, but it cannot explain the correctness of the spectral lines of hydrogen atom. Next came into picture, that is this vector atom model. This vector atom model is a universal model which explains all atomic. It explains all the properties of atomic transitions, energy levels, and so on. Everything it explains. So the main features of this vector atom model are: one is space quantization, or the concept of special quantization, and the second one is spinning electron. So here the different quantum numbers are associated with this vector atom model. The first one is this one. The total quantum number represented by n. It can take only integer values. The second one is orbital quantum number. This one is represented with L, small l, but it can take values between, in any integral values it can take, but those values should be between 0 and n-1 only. And a spin quantum number is there. That spin quantum number, spin quantum number explains the magnitude of, it explains the spinning of the electron, but it can have only two values. One is plus of and the other one is minus of. Plus 1 for the clockwise rotation of the electron. Like this, if you suppose electron moving around the orbit, it can move in this way or it can move in this way. That means This is anti-clockwise rotation. For clockwise rotation of the electron, the spin quantum number value is plus of. For anti-clockwise rotation, the spin quantum number value is minus of. So the spin quantum number, that is S, in general we represent it with some in textbooks. Some textbooks they represent with the MS also, but it can take values only either plus of or minus of. Next one, a total angular momentum quantum number, that is A. The resultant of angular momentum quantum number and the resultant angular momentum of the electron due to both orbital and spin motion of the electrons. That's why the sum of L plus S. That means orbital angular momentum, that is L, and spin angular momentum S. If you add both of them, it comes to a total angular momentum quantum number. So here the orbital, just observe this diagram. This diagram. The orbital angular momentum for an atomic electron can be visualized in terms of vector model, where the angular momentum vector is seen as precessing about the direction in space. Just observe this one. Here, this is the angular. This is the angular momentum vector. What it is doing? It is precessing. It is precessing in the space like this. So, if you consider a virtual line like in this one, so this angle will be there. This angle cannot be continuous. It takes only discrete values. Like the next orbital may be like this. Next orbital spinning may be like this. So it cannot take all the values. It can take only some particular values only. That's why we are calling it as what we call conservation of angular momentum. So it can take values like delta L is equal to square root of L into L plus 1 into h cut. So these are the values it can take. If we take this one, the diagram shows that the possible values of the magnetic quantum number ml for L is equal to can take the values ml is equal to 2, minus 1, 0 and 1, 2. So here this electron, what our angular quantum number or angular quantum, this angular momentum cannot take all values. It can take only some specified values. The specified values are like this. So if you take this one, for this one it comes a cone like this. For this one it comes a cone like this, and for this one it comes a cone like this. Just like 1 minute I will draw. So see here, the angular momentum quantum numbers precise like this. For this particular orientation, the angular momentum is precise like this. Like this, ML can take values from minus L2, 0 includes, and it takes up to plus L. These are the values. These are the different orientations of the orbit in space. That means here space is quantized. That means the space is quantized. This is the first property of the vector atom model. And the second one is here also is just observe. I have explained already this one. Next, spinning of electron also will be there. Spinning electrons, actually I have explained. Electron spins either clockwise, anti-clockwise, or clockwise. So that's why our spin quantum number can take values only either plus up or minus up. So come to conclusions. Vector atom model can explain Zeeman effect, Stark effect, and so on. It can also explain the complex spectra of alkali metal like sodium, lithium, and so on, and also can explain how the orbital electrons in an atom are distributed around the nucleus. So this is the universal model. So the vector atom model explained all the properties of all the spectral properties and all the properties of atom. So this is the good model. So with this, I thank you very much. These are the references I have taken. I have taken this material from these references. One is Atomic Physics, that is by J.B. Rajan, and the other one is Introduction to Atomic Spectra by Harvey, Elliott, White, and these are the web resources I have considered. Thank you very much. We will meet in the next class. If you have any doubts, please post them in the chat box. I will read your questions and your opinions, and I will try to answer them. Thank you very much.